welcome to Tell Your Story 2020 Virtual Book Fair. Today we have a special 101, and it is with Joanne Reed. I am your host, Consuela Meehan. Joanne, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Where are you in the country?
I live in Seoul, South Korea.
South Korea. So, because of our time difference, me and Joanne decided that it would be best if we had a one on one interview so that we could do a time that worked for me and works for her. And it's already Wednesday there, correct?
That's right, it's Wednesday morning at 9:24.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining me. I want to ask you some questions about yourself. Um, something like, towards your author bio. I know that we all have to have one when we sign up to do a book as an author. So tell me a little bit about Joanne.
Well, I'm a lawyer by profession, but taking a break from legal matters to concentrate on writing. Writing is a fairly new thing for me. I never had this childhood dream where I just, wanted to be a writer. It's not something that I had on my to-do list. And it came to me as much as a surprise. Then, even my friends and family, nobody really knew that I could write. And when I actually released a book and became a published author, everybody was surprised. Um, and really there are three authors that were very influential to me in my decision to become a writer. The first one is Maya Angelou. She's always been a hero of mine, and actually named my eldest daughter after her, Maya. The second author is James Baldwin, and the third is Toni Morrison. Maya Angelou is, she's very wise. She's known for great quotes, and there are lots of quotes out there that she's known for. But for me, the best one, and the one that really motivated me, was the one when she says, "There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story." She also said, "You can only become truly accomplished if you do something you love. Money should not be an inspiration. And when you find something that you love doing, just become so good at it that people won't be able to take your eyes off you." So that really makes you think, and that really sort of resonates with me. And then you have James Baldwin. When he was asked how he became an author, he said that you cannot underestimate the importance of writing, because writers spend time writing and describing things that other people don't have time to do. And then he said, I didn't decide to become a writer. I discovered I was one. And that really is my story, because really I never had this dream of becoming a writer. I discovered I was one. And finally, I have Toni Morrison, and I think that it's really her who really helped me to put my thoughts on paper and turn those thoughts into a manuscript and then a book. She said, if there is a book that you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you should be the one to write it. And this is exactly what I did with my book, which is a self-help book. I have it here. So the title is This Is Your Quest, and the subtitle is Your Mission to Experience Happiness Along the Way.
That's excellent. And that's actually, Maya Angelou is a favorite of mine because I love poetry. And even though I am a single mom with two kids, I think about a quote that she says, trust love one more time and always one more time. And I wrote a poetry book, and it was based on love. Everything in it is either you love your family, love your life, love your faith, love your spouse, love yourself. And I made a quote on my own too, just by thinking about what she said, and it's what I said was, um, you have to look in the mirror, and the true definition of beauty is the reflection that you see. Because if you don't see yourself as beautiful, nobody else will. And I'm not talking about, beauty from the outside. I'm talking about beauty from the inside out. So that's great that you brought her up, because she's definitely, it's one of those things where we're getting older, and I'm so sad that I never got to meet some of the people that inspired me, that I looked up to, and that, now she is deceased, but her legacy is definitely still with us, and her talent will be forever. So let's get into your book. Tell me about your book.
It's a self-help book. It is set as a journey, um, and I, I guide and coaches the reader to adopt an explorer mindset in their quest towards happiness, and that through the trifecta of money, love, and health. Um, the key to the book is the pursuit of happiness, and happiness is a very fluid concept because it's different for everyone. What makes you happy is very different from what makes me happy. But I was really interested to try to dig down into it and try to look at it from a different vantage point. And the way I wrote the book, and hence the title, This Is Your Quest, it's very different from the normal self-help book that you find out there. Because most self-help books, they are written from the perspective of the writer, and the writer will write it based on their own expertise, their own experience, their own professional qualification. And then usually what they do is they will set up a set of rules, and then it will be up to the reader to just go through those rules and try to make sure that they try to comply with those rules to try to accomplish whatever objective they have. I didn't go down this route. My approach is completely different. I'm not telling people how they should live their life because I don't think I'm qualified to do that. I didn't set any rules. I just basically give them a food for thought so that they can go on their own quest for happiness and they find their own definition of happiness. Because what it is that, and the way I did that, there's a lot of I've been using the wisdom of my favorite authors and philosophers. You're talking about Maya Angelou, and then you're saying that you wish that she was still alive and you would be able to talk to her and engage with her. And that's where books are important, because books allow you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Books are there because you can actually tap into the minds of the most brilliant people out there, living or dead,
Yep.
right? And when you say, people got, when you talk about self-development and self-actualization, a lot of the advice is you have to go out there and then you have to find a mentor. And my mentor is Maya Angelou, is James Baldwin, is Toni Morrison, is like all the authors or all the philosophers that are out there and have great wisdom, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what my book is about. I've been using the wisdom and the lesson learned from authors and philosophers and share them with the people so that they can actually find their own path. And what it is right nowadays, especially in the current climate, a lot of people, there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of people, because there's so much uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very difficult to deal with. And what people would like to have more is clarity.
Mm-hmm.
People would like to have less uncertainty and more clarity. They People would want clear solutions to their problems. They want to have a clear path to follow. But then, how do you do that? And you just do it yourself, but you need to be able to have the right mindset and to do this. And that's what I'm trying to do with my book. I'm hoping that my book will be that beam of light that people will be drawn to, and that somehow it will bring them some clarity. And when you're looking, sorry,
No, go ahead.
yeah, because when you're looking through the concept of happiness, when you're looking at the etymology of the word happiness, it means living well. And most people, so if you're living well, then you will find happiness. And most people think that they'll be happy if they're wealthy, if they're in love, and if they have good health, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because those three, money, love, and happiness, they are the pillars of well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when I was referring to Toni Morrison and said, if you haven't found a book out there that hasn't been written, then you have to write it, because I actually never found a book that deals with all the subject at once. Usually the self-help are very focused. They're very focused on one particular area, as either love, money, or health, taken separately. But to me, those things can't be separate, because everything's connected. You can't have one and then basically says you're happy, because the other two would be missing.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what I'm doing in my book. I'm just looking. I'm taking a really good look underneath the surface, and I'm digging way down to try to make people see things that maybe not so obvious before, and really help them to have a bit more clarity.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think too, especially in this times that we're in, there's a lesson in it because it life has given us a chance to slow down right now.
That's right.
And even though we're not doing the things that we're used to doing every day, we have more time with our families. We have more time to spend with our spouses. If we have one, we have more time to spend with ourselves. Um, and each thing in life does actually teach you a lesson. And I feel like when you're going through it and you miss the lesson, it will come back around until you get it.
Mm.
And so, what do you feel like is a lesson that you may have thought about or learned by writing the book and even going through COVID?
I learned that people think they know themselves, but they don't. There's two things that actually dictates whether you have a pleasant experience as you go along on your life journey, or a very unpleasant one. The
Hmm.
first thing is, do you know yourself? And the second thing is, do you know why people do the things they do? Right? And the second question is linked to the concept of human nature. Because then once you know yourself, you still have to deal with people around you, and you have to understand why people do the things they do. So it's only when you sit down and quiet your mind and stay still for a little bit that you can't just find yourself and understand yourself if your life is cluttered with mindless entertainment all the time, or if you're just like rushing around everywhere,
Hmm.
doing hundreds of things at once. You can't do that, because there's too many distractions. So what you need to do is really to stand still for a little bit, and really ask yourself those questions that you don't maybe dare asking yourself. And because I spent time looking at this concept, I found out a lot of things that I actually didn't know before. So for me, writing was like an exploration trip, because I didn't know what I was going to find out. And it's just the more I looked into it, the more fascinating I became by the whole concept of, knowing yourself, loving yourself, self-actualization, self-development. And when you look at the concept of self-love, for example, it's not the narcissistic attitude. It's not. We're not talking about this. It's something completely different. um, it's uh, what the world needs really is for more people to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's not a selfish purpose in life to want to make yourself happy first, because you can't give something that you don't have, so it has to start with you.
Right, and the rule of thumb, and I heard this from Ayanna. She um she was doing one of her master classes with Oprah, and she said, "Be selfless, not selfish." And she said,
Mm-hmm.
"What is in the cup is for me, and what overflows is for you." And basically, if your cup is empty, you really don't have much to give anyone else. And I
That's
think
right.
we spend so much time having this perfect life that we want everybody to see. We want everybody to, and it's the vanity, it's the um having to be perfect on social media. We have the perfect family, we don't go through problems, we have the perfect relationship, we have money. We want everybody to know that our lives are perfect and that we look great, and that's really all that matters. And so nobody ever sees the true you unless you're vulnerable to it, or by writing you can tell your story of empowerment. And so a lot of the ladies on the panel from the previous interviews, that's one of the things they chose to do, and how they were able to help themselves and help others was to be able to tell their story so that people can relate to something that you went through, that they went through, and not feel so bad about it. Like, okay, this person went through it, then I can get through it if I'm going through it. So I completely agree with you on that. So as far as your writing goes, has any who's inspired you outside of writing? Who's the person that inspired you the most in your family?
Uh, it's a difficult question. I think it's probably my children. Um, because I like, I mean, they are teenagers now, but I like the way that children think. They're spontaneous. They have a vision of life that is very simple and quite logical in their child mind attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and their life as a child, your life is pretty simple. There's not much complication, your parents are here to look after your basic needs of, food, shelter, and so forth, and the rest really it's up to you. So their life is really simple, and I quite like the fact that um, I find this inspirational in a way, because I think that as adults we put boundaries on ourselves too much
Mm-hmm.
that I think children don't. I mean, children, as they grow up, those boundaries will come, and that's because of society, environment, and a whole raft of issues that actually makes you lose that spontaneity. But um, you know, I didn't think, if I stopped for too long and asked myself the question, I mean, do you really know how to write a book? Or why do you think that you should write this book? Or you're not a writer. This is not your thing. Um, so sometimes you just you have to stop overthinking things. You just have to go with your emotion, your gut feeling. And I think children do that more than adults. So I think it's something that I try to do. And to answer your question, I think it's my daughters, and we had some memories that is really precious in terms of how they were raised. I like the way their personality and the way that they look at the world. So that's I found that really inspiring.
Yeah, kids are carefree, and sometimes I think that we painting this big picture of perfection in our lives, we forget to be carefree. We forget to be out of our box, and to, not just you know, have this to do or this to do, but to actually enjoy what we're doing. And every year for me, I decided that there was something in me that I would be reinventing myself. And you should grow. And I have a book that I'm writing. It's called Grow with the Clouds. And for me, I'm one with nature. So I love the mountains. If I go out and before it gets really dark, I'll look up at the sky and see the clouds moving. And that's why I made that title of a book, because we really should be growing with the clouds. The earth is moving around, it doesn't stop, the time keeps going, and we have to keep going with it. And so every minute we should be growing, we should not be going backwards. So, with that being said, I appreciate you so much for taking this time.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm glad we finally got together. It was a little rough at first, but we made it happen. So I'm so
You
happy.
made it happen.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you on. So before we go, let everybody know again and hold your book up and just let everybody know where they can find your book.
This is my book. This is your quest. You can buy on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, from my publisher, Book Locker. You can go on my website as well, authorjoannereed.net. There's an easy purchase button there.
Okay, great. Sounds good. I will definitely be purchasing my copy. I'm going to support all the authors that were on the panel.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And before I go, I just want to encourage you through these times with your family or the girls. You know, hold them a little longer and make the moment last forever.